Won't you please come join me for some midnight therapy?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Midnight Therapy. I'm your host, Kat Matthews. Against all odds, here I am with a new episode as a new father as of 4 days. Our baby was born. Everything went well. Christy is okay. Our baby is okay. Thank God. We are both home, finally home, 4 days old. The baby's 4 days old. A lot of adjusting, a lot to learn, a lot that I'm still learning every day. We're in this together, though. There's lots of support, lots of family. If you were wondering, baby is here. We have never been happier. And I do mean that. I'm not going to talk too much about that yet because I'm still processing all these emotions, but I will say they are positive emotions. Very positive, very happy, very grateful, much lighter. You feel lighter, you have a great energy. All the things people say about it being this overwhelming love is real, and you will probably only know it once it happens to you. That's a whole other podcast in and of itself, but I just wanted to let the fans out there know we have a new member of our family. Everything went well. I am surprisingly able to get a podcast out, mostly because I think we both need to decompress. This is kind of how I decompress, by working. This is working. You know how hard it is to go to work and having to put on the hat and wear this hot shawl, and set everything up, set these lights up and the camera and pay the crew. We have a big crew here. Somebody working my teleprompter and somebody getting me the cold, Bush Lime. This doesn't all just happen. Who do you think keeps the lights on? Who do you think runs everything? So I have to go work. It's so hard. This is very difficult. I hope you appreciate how difficult this is. And all jokes aside, this ain't easy, doing this. I just make it look real easy. But somehow or another, there's time, so you're getting a pod. And like I said, baby's home. Just wanted to briefly touch on that. But there is a multitude of topics we have to talk about in current events and the climate and everything. But I'm going to focus on just one. But by talking about just one topic is going to open up the, let's say, Pandora's box into many other different topics and subtopics that are related to this big topic. And pretty much, if you've been watching this show a long time, or even if it's your first time watching this show, I'm going to cut right to the chase always. I don't really beat around the bush. And if I do, it's in a comedic way where I sort of lead you somewhere and I hope you fill in the, connect the dots, fill in the blanks. I hope you do that. But I think you get what I'm saying most of the time, hopefully. And if not, that's the beauty of this podcast and my masterful delivery of content. Again, I'm not a journalist. I'm not a licensed therapist, quote, wink. But I am Kat Matthews, and you know what you get. You're getting what you get all the time. I'm always this way. This is how I talk at the barber shop with Mike the Barber. This is how I talk if I'm out at Chili's trying a new restaurant in town. We got a Chili's. I'll talk the same way. This is how I talk at at the pet store when we're buying rawhide bones for the dogs. I'm always telling people all these conspiracies and very harsh opinions on things that they probably don't even know what I'm saying because everybody's an NPC. What you see is what you get. Moral of my rant. So what I'm going to say today is that I believe, now again, this show, not the biggest show yet, and they don't really care about me. I'm not a threat to their game just yet. So for now, we get away with this, hopefully. But I'm here to tell you that I do believe that the president of the United States, Donald Trump, is compromised. Now, what do I mean by that? And why is that shocking or why is it not shocking? It all depends on your background knowledge, on what you know on the deep state and the real owners of this country and the world. But the main reason I'm telling you that President Trump is compromised has to do everything with Jeffrey Epstein, which will be the focus of majority of this podcast. So if you're interested in, I don't know, the Stanley Cups that I did with Christy, or me talking about the big ride along catch-up, or some lighthearted fun making fun of the CMA Awards, that's not going to be this episode, unfortunately. This is going to be a deep one. So either buckle up. Hopefully you get this Sunday night. If not, it'll be Monday morning. But if it is Sunday night, buckle up, put it on the TV, call the fam, call grandma, and watch, because this is going to be a good one. And I did a lot of work for this one. I looked up a lot of things, did a lot of research. Me and my best friend, ChatGPT, talked a lot for this episode. So hope you're ready. But here's what I'm worried about. I'm claiming that Trump is compromised, and a lot of people, and I would call this the intellectual right, meaning you have an intellectual left and an intellectual right, and then you have a, let's say, less than intellectual left and right as well. The less than intellectual left would be, there are 5 million genders. We need to fund all these ludicrous things that really make no sense. And we're going to go outside and yell about this flag and my body, my choice, unless it involves a vaccine, then you have to get it and put that in your body. Like the hypocrisy, like we all know that exists on the left. The anti-intellectual or unintellectual right would be the Trump is the savior sent from heaven and above, and he's going to fix everything, and he's working with QAnon, and he's dropping hints, and he's going to be with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and end the, this cult that runs the world and drain the swamp. And those people. They have the shirts. They fly the flag on a pickup truck. You know what I'm saying. And they don't really know much. Both sides don't really know much other than the surface. They believe Trump's the savior. The left version of that believes that Kamala Harris was really going to buy everybody a free house. And that it was a historic win for women if she won, and it didn't matter about all the holes in her plans or lack thereof plans. And you know what I'm saying. But I'm saying the intellectual right, I think a lot of these people, including people in his cabinet and voters, there's a lot of you out there, it's half the country. Not all of you are toothless hillbillies. I know that. I'm not an insensitive dummy. And I also know that a lot of the people on the left are very somewhat intelligent. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to discredit anyone, but I am going to intersect the population a little. I'm talking to the people that are intelligent and pay attention and liked Donald Trump and his messaging and his stances, his policy. And I believe I fall into that category, not to toot my own horn, but like me and all the others that fall into that category, I believe we were misled that this guy was playing sort of like a 4D chess and he was ahead of the game and he was going to conquer all this evil and really drain the swamp and expose government misspending and expose the evil atrocities that were going on in this country and the world. I think we believed there was a spiritual war going on, and this guy actually had positive energy and momentum behind him. He wanted to bring this country back to a point of economic prosperity and unite the nation. I think a lot of us in our heart believe that for good reason. Now, we are at a turning point where he is either that or he is a master grifter, carnival barker, businessman, scam artist, extreme rhetoric, master manipulator, fake fraud. Or, to combine it, was compromised by the system that he tried to defeat and eventually just started joining it. Essentially, he's the Anakin Skywalker that became Darth Vader. He said the prophecy was he was going to destroy the dark side, but he kind of just joined the dark side. And now he is one of them if he wasn't already. Now, that's what I'm having a problem dealing with as what I like to believe a critical thinking person. It appears in every way, shape, and form that he is compromised and is now in the big club. If you don't know the big club, that is a reference to George Carlin, a great stand-up comedian that said, it's a big club and you ain't in it. That's true. There is a big club that runs this country and the world full of high elites. And I don't even know if Trump's in that one, but he's in a tier of it. He is definitely, I believe, part of the problem now. I don't know if he always was, but I think he is now. This very well could have been the same puppet master with different puppets on each hand. One left, one right, one black, one white, one blue, one red, one gay, one straight. Just same puppet master, different puppets telling you that there's two sides. There really may never have been two sides. Trump may very well have secret dinners on islands with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and laugh about it like it was a WWE stunt. Every debate could be like, wow, we really got them. They believe that one. Great pile driver. Really liked the full Nelson. That was nice. Good touch. Nice touch. I don't know. But if we're going to pretend and presume this is all real, I believe Trump was compromised. Now, here's why I want you to believe it. The Epstein situation. His lack thereof concern, now that he is the president again and no longer a candidate running for office, should bother all of you. Should bother everyone, left, right, Democrat, Republican, whatever, independent, I don't care. It should bother you how he changed his tune, and you should ponder why he changed his tune and what that means. Now, a lot of you watching probably don't know as much about Jeffrey Epstein as maybe I do or other lunatics do out there. So I'm going to do you the great favor of giving you a brief recap. Now, you could fact check all this if you wish. Like I said, I'm not a peer-reviewed source. You're getting a podcast from a cowboy in the basement enjoying a Busch Light Lime in a shawl. That's getting quite hot, actually. I'm sweating a bit. But let's get into it. If Trump is compromised, I'm going to give you a full reason why. Jeffrey Epstein, everyone knows the name, but do they know what happened? He was always a man in power. He had powerful roots and wealth, high influential person, always at these events. He was always around the important people, whether it be politicians, Hollywood actors, donors, special interests, judges, any type of celebrity, athletes, you name it, he was around them. Mostly around in Florida and New York. He did his business. And he had the reputation of being a little, let's say, odd when it came to underage girls. Now, this all came to light in 2005 in Florida. There was an investigation started looking into him involving, let's say, I think it was sexual abuse of minors in 2005. 2008, a plea deal is reached, and he is charged with solicitation of minors. And he served some time for that, I believe. It was not very long, and the big federal sex trafficking charge was dropped and forgot about. Non-prosecution agreement was extended by the judge. Seemed fishy, seemed corrupt. They did a documentary on this. You could all watch it. That's the old story. The new one that gets interesting, or a little more interesting, should I say, was July 2019, in which he was arrested by federal authorities for sex trafficking and conspiracy charges. This one involved dozens of girls that were underage, and this one looked to be the one that was going to get him, which a lot of people were happy about. Unfortunately, you know the story, you know the sentiment, you know the old adage, a dead man tells no tales, and old Jeffrey ended up dead in jail. Now, this is where the world kind of goes, whoa, 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 wait a minute. At least majority of the world starts talking about this death being fishy. They deemed it a suicide. They said he killed himself in jail. Now, this becomes very controversial. Now, here's why. And I'm giving you the abridged version. Like I said, you want to look into this more, you could. If you don't know, some of you, this is a summary of the college lecture. You're like, all right, we know, get on with it. So bear with me. The reason his suicide was fishy is that he was on suicide watch. He was a very high-profile inmate. This had media attention. Everybody was paying attention to this. Everybody knew what was going on here. Everybody in the prison was briefed about this guy being a big deal. He was left alone. The cameras failed. That's coincidental. That's convenient for the prison. The footage was lost. The guards were asleep. The guards were sleeping, taking a nappy. His brother paid for a private autopsy to be done, and it was deemed a homicide. It was deemed not typical with suicide. This is more like a homicide because of the strangulation marks and the multiple cuts and the broken bone that is never, it's never the case with a hanging. It's always indicative of a strangulation. Also, Jeffrey Epstein reported to his lawyers that week and prior that he was not suicidal. Now, that's the end of it. Dead man tells no tales. People looked into it. People talked about it. Blah, blah, blah. Kind of fell to the wayside. Ghislaine Maxwell, his partner, sexual partner, business partner, whatever you want to call, was charged as his accomplice and arrested in 2020. Try to keep up with this timeline. She was convicted on 5 federal counts of sex trafficking and conspiracy and is currently serving 20 years in prison. Now, I'm going to mention this a little later. It's ironic that she briefly made the news with this whole Epstein stuff going on, asking Trump for a pardon. It's very interesting. Now, here's why that might be on the table. Trump is campaigning for his second term as president. This is his third run. This is in the 2024 election, a little bit before that. Trump is going on all these podcasts and he's doing all these public appearances and he's seeming like a hero. Trump makes this bold, very Carnival Barker-like, very, perfect propaganda, perfect messaging stunt, kind of like him in the garbage truck, makes this claim that if he wins, he will release all of the hidden top secret files, the JFK files, MLK files, and most importantly, the Epstein files. This gets what I like to call the intellectual right riled up. So it's no longer, he's going to make America great again and get the groceries cheaper. It was more the people that go, I do pay attention to all the crap this government has done for years. And this guy might be the outsider that exposes it all. And I like that. Not that they're MAGA and crazy and yelling at people for having blue hair. It's not that. It's the intellectual right. Not necessarily the base. But that brought a lot of independents and maybe even some Democrats over because Trump was touting this message of exposing the elite evil in this country and the world. So that seemed enticing. And we all hoped that he was going to be a man of his word and do this. Now, I lost faith when he won and released the JFK files, and there was more blacked out lines in the files than there was previously. That's when I knew this might be a farce, and we may all have been misled and tricked. That's when I first got the taste of that, and now it's here. It's right in front of your face that maybe there was some lies. Now, let it be said that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein is photographed many times with Trump and many other people. Let me just say that Trump called this guy a freak back in the day. You could look that up. He was very dismissive of the guy. They all were in these high-profile settings, so it makes sense that they would have ran into each other. Epstein also ran into a lot of other people like Tom Hanks, and I think Bill Clinton was very good friends with him too. So don't get all crazy there. Just because there's a picture of somebody together doesn't mean you have anything to do with them. I have a picture with, I believe, Kid Rock, but he doesn't even know who I am. So, I mean, it's like, look, there they are together. Cat Matthews must hate Bud Light. It's like, well, you're right, but it's not because of Kid Rock. You know what I'm saying? So that's just a coincidence, I think. But Maxwell's father, I believe his name is Robert Maxwell. Look him up. That's an interesting thing. He was part of Mossad, which is the Israeli intelligence, sort of like our intelligence, but the Israel's version of that. And they're very prominent and powerful. And I believe Jeffrey Epstein was very well aware of his partner's father, and they probably spoke many times and did business together many times. If you know what I'm saying. Now, I'm just a cowboy in the basement, so do with that info what you wish. I'm just point you in directions here. Trump wins. And like I said, we got the JFK files. We didn't get the MLK, as far as I know. And now it's time for the Epstein files, which he teased. And Trump, he made this a big part of his campaign, and all the people around him made it a big part of their campaigning and their speeches and their, let's say, vision statement or their goals was to expose this evil. That was a big part of Trump's inner circle. Now, you could say, is Trump playing 4D chess? Is it part of a big plan? The Q people are probably, they're getting all excited now. Let's fast forward to February 2025. Attorney General, I believe, Pam Bondi. I believe she's the Attorney General. She said on live TV she has the client list on her desk. She has Jeffrey Epstein's client list on her desk as we speak. She made that claim. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was clear as day. There was no miscommunication. She said she had the client list on her desk. Now, that's what it means. It means she has the client list on her desk. That means, wow, we're going to get to the bottom of this soon. These MAGA influencers, other people in Trump's inner circle, did a big stunt for the cameras. They were holding a binder. They all had a binder. You remember this? It's the fast-paced news cycle. Nobody remembers anything anymore. I remember it. They were holding the binder up, a bunch of them, and it said Jeffrey Epstein Files, the Epstein Files, Phase 1. Look it up. They all did it. They had it. They said they read it. They said there's some crazy stuff in here. We got to look it over to protect identities, but we're going to release it soon. Here we are. There's your recap. It's all done. Now we're here, July 2025. Ain't it grand? The Department of Justice and the FBI come out and officially say that there is no client list. Jeffrey Epstein's client list never existed, and the United States in any way, shape, or form does not have it because it doesn't exist. There is no client list. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Kash Patel. You know who Kash Patel is. He is the FBI director. Trump set the bar really high for him. He was supposed to be really tough. Here's when I started getting worried about him, and I was like, oh, we've all been lied to. He goes on Rogan, and look how he backpedaled on Rogan. He already knew the fix was in. He had his script. He goes, well, we don't really know. I mean, about Epstein, like, you would know if I know. Everything I know, you would know, and we know what we know, and we don't really know what's going on there. And is there, I don't know if there's a list. Like, he was all over the place on that Rogan interview. I knew he was compromised instantly. So now Kash Patel comes out, and Bongino, the deputy director, who was big on Epstein, he was going to expose Epstein. He said it many times. It was one of his biggest priorities. They are in a tough spot now. There's huge tensions. There already was, but now there's more. The whole White House is in turmoil as far as I'm concerned. You have Bongino or Bon Jovi or Chef Boyardee. You have Bongino saying that he may resign if Bondi doesn't leave. It's either her or me, he's saying, allegedly. And then you have Kash Patel saying, if Bongino leaves, I'm leaving. So these guys aren't necessarily happy with Trump and how he handled this. Now, this is the problem. Trump completely deflected a question when somebody asked him about this. He was in a meeting, and maybe the timing was bad because he was talking about floods and other unrelated topics, but somebody brought it up to Bondi, and Trump steps in and goes, are you really asking her about Jeffrey Epstein? Who's that? Who cares? That freak? You got to be ashamed of yourself for doing that. Now, that's right out of a rhetoric playbook. That's like a lawyer tactic. That is a rhetorical device to deflect. He's the best at it. He is like a lawyer in the way he changes subjects and redirects. But we are on to you there, my friend. You said this was important, and we remember you saying it was important, and it was important to most of your base. And now you're saying, oh, it's nothing. Who cares? Move on. Ask about the floods, which are fishy in and of themselves. Maybe some people, I don't know who, are controlling the weather. I don't know. There was floods everywhere in the country at the same time, in the same day. That's weird. But again, one thing at a time here. We're talking about Jeffrey Epstein and Trump being compromised. That's this episode. So Trump, in that very moment, let all of his base on all these podcasts that stuck their neck out for Trump and all these people of influence, Tucker, you have Bannon, you have Fox News, you have even Joe Rogan to an extent, Elon Musk, which that says it enough on its own right there. You have all these people, the Alex Jones, that are now like, Alex Jones literally cried because he's like, I can't believe I was fooled. I was like, well, I could, but sorry, Alex, but he was like betrayed. He thought Trump was really going to be this white knight that saved the world from this evil. No, it's not that. I don't think it is that. I think everybody's waking up that it's not that. So now it's like, now what? Not to say the other side's any better, but we had hope in this guy being a true outsider. And we thought he was playing 4D chess. And we let everything go. Like, oh, the Israel thing and Iran and the bombs, we could let that go. And him literally, he hates somebody the one day and now he loves them the next day. And, oh, we could let that go. And big tech is on his side. Oh, we could let that go. Palantir. Oh, we could let that go. Alligator Alcatraz. Oh, we could let that go. He's probably got something going. It reminds me of that SpongeBob when he waited up for Santa all night and Santa never came, and he kept making excuses like, oh, he's coming, don't worry, maybe he's just hungry, that's why he's late. Like, that's kind of what's going on. And now this is the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm sorry, I don't know anyone. I would love someone to give me an explanation of why Trump changed his tune on Epstein and why we are supposed to just forget about that now, and why they think the American public and the world will forget about that right now. Why? Tell me a reason. Tell me a reason other than important people in the government and in the world and the people that own this country, and maybe even Trump himself, are involved in that. And the only reason Trump said that he was going to expose it was to get your vote. They were never going to let those files out. They were never going to let you know anything. You and I and everyone else are rats in a maze. Just because you got to the cheese doesn't mean you won. Sure, you found the cheese. Now get back in the maze. We all thought we were going to get out. We thought this guy was going to lead us out. We propped him up. He got out, and now we're still stuck. And by out of the maze, he just got in. He got back in. Got 4 more years or longer of power, thanks to us believing he wouldn't double cross, but it looks like he did. And it looks like anyone would. And it looks like everyone does. Our only flaw, our only error was having faith in someone because they were different. But it turns out no one is really different when you get to a certain level of power. Stanford prison experiment can show you that. So what do we do from here? Trump, he's dismissing Epstein, the biggest case possibly ever in the world, which is an umbrella for a lot of other evils that go on. But he's adamant about kicking Rosie O'Donnell out of the country. This Carnival Act reality TV show, WWE, which it is, what politics became, is getting a little old. I don't know why. There's still, let's say, less intellectual Trump supporters saying, yeah, Rosie O'Donnell does need to get out of this country. But they won't say anything bad about Trump completely backpedaling on Epstein. That's the problem. That is the problem. And the only people calling this out are like The View, and they're doing it so poorly, and they're so hard to like, and they're disingenuous, and they're part of the evil themselves, but they want to redirect it to someone else. That can't be the only people talking poorly on Trump. I think his base, including people like me, and maybe the intellectual base, if I am so bold to say I am, we need to be calling it out, because you love your country, you love this system, and you like a candidate, but you don't have to die on the hill for them if they're compromised. That's all I'm saying. It's time someone stands up and is passionate about something. Stand for something or fall for anything. Trump's great and all. He's funny. He makes politics a little fun, but there's no reason we have to follow him blindly into hypocrisy. That would make us just as bad as the unintellectual left, and that would make him just as bad as these other rulers that ruled this country so blindly and stupidly and hypocritically for so long. It's time to call it. Sorry, I'm calling it right now. Trump's compromised. That's it. There's no 4D chess as far as I'm concerned. I don't think there's a bigger plan. If there is, I stand corrected and I'll say I'm sorry, but I don't see it in the cards, folks. I really don't. It's actually sad. You got Tucker now. Tucker was like one of the first ones to stand up against the whole Iran situation, and now he's building momentum. He gave a very interesting speech. Almost sounded like a somewhat candidate-like speech. Maybe he might run for something. Elon Musk, who I don't trust either. I believe he's compromised and always has been. But he's trying to start this new American party. He's the third party, or to shake up the Democrat-Republican thing, maybe steal some votes. Who knows if that's going to take off or do anything? It might just fall flat. But there's a lot of weird things going on, a lot of splits in the MAGA party that didn't have to be there, in my opinion. The only reason he didn't release that is because he and people around him are on that list and have been to that island and have partaken in these evil atrocities from all over the world. And that's why. I mean, maybe he had good intentions and he goes, I do want to release it. And then a couple people in suits come to him and say, Mr. President, we love where your mind is at, but you and me both know that list can never come out. And he goes, why not? And they go, take a look at who's on it. And Trump himself, the egomaniac, he went, holy crap. I can't believe these people are on it. And I can't believe they would be compromised. And they go, we can't let that happen. He goes, yeah, you're right. Trump pretends he never sees it. He goes, oh, okay, whatever, forget it. Never happened. But then all the people around him that thought that they were going a certain direction have to change it up, and they look all, discombobulated. They seem off. Their eyes are bugging out of their head, and they look sweaty, and they're confused because they're not as good at bullshitting and forgetting anything ever happened as Trump is. Trump's the best at that. So with that being said, everything is probably a lie. And this whole Trump thing, this is a modern, new, contemporary example of that. But everything is a lie. And the owners of this country can lie to you all they want because you're distracted and I'm distracted. And we can't spend every waking moment looking up every terrible lie and conspiracy because we'd go insane. And they kind of want us to do that so they could sell us more, pills and medicine and more comfort items and more distractions. And so they don't care. You go crazy if you want. You're probably never going to go crazy enough to get to a point of influence where you can make actual change. And if you do, they'll get you. They'll make you plant opposition. They will, if they can't get you, they'll Kanye West you, they'll Alex Jones you, they'll paint you out to be crazy. They might literally fry your brain like MK Ultra. They'll get you. You're going to comply or die. That's pretty much it. If you get to a point of influence with your craziness. If you have no influence or little influence like me, they let you rant. They let you go. What's he? He doesn't matter. Nobody's listening. Because most people are just listening to the garbage they want you to listen to, which just dulls the brain and doesn't, encourage any form of critical thinking. They want you to say, don't you want to watch the Mormon Wives show or Below Deck or Jersey Shore? And you go, yeah, it's much easier to watch that than Fox or CNN. That's stressful. The History Channel, that's boring. What are you, Grandpa? That's the truth, everyone. I'm telling you, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I don't know if you were ready for this truth bomb on a Sunday, but you got it. Sorry. Everything's a lie. I'm gonna list you some more lies. This is just like a crash course if you want to do a little extra credit. Look up the war on drugs. Look up what went on there. Look up MK Ultra, as I brought up. Look up Jack Ruby. Look up Jolly West. Look up Marilyn Manson in regards to MK Ultra, the CIA mind control experiments that went on. Look that up. Look up the guy that shot at Trump, that Crook guy or Crooks or whatever. Look up him and his involvement, and look up what company he did a commercial for. I'll give you a hint. It was BlackRock. And look up BlackRock and look up Vanguard. Look up State Street. Look those up. Look up how much they own. Look how much of the market value they control. Look up Project Paperclip. Look up the moon landing. This is funny. Here's what I always say about the moon landing. You have two options. Either, and I'm cutting right to the chase here, either it was faked and Stanley Kubrick, the Hollywood director, directed it right after 2001: A Space Odyssey came out the year before and looked better than the moon landing footage. Look that up. Either he directed it, and that's why the three astronauts have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It's either that, or you believe we actually went there in the 60s and then lost all the technology to get there, and we never went back since, or no other nation has ever went except us in the 60s with that outdated equipment. And we got through the Van Allen radiation belts, no problem. Nobody ever got hurt, but we just stopped going. You can believe that. But if you do believe that, you have to believe that the only reason we got there was because of a Nazi. See, it's one or the other. I don't make the rules. Werner von Braun is the reason we got to the moon, and he was a SS Nazi that used tons of inhumane labor when he was doing his engineering endeavors in Nazi Germany. But we took him no problem because he was helpful to us. So either we faked it or the Nazis did it for us, and we were okay with dealing with Nazis. And everything you know is a little lie. It's one or the other. That one's not great. Go down that rabbit hole. Look up 2001: A Space Odyssey. Look that up. That was filmed in the 60s. Allegedly, Kubrick was hanging out with those astronauts too. I don't make the rules. I'm just a cowboy in the basement. You can look up JFK. Plenty of controversy of that incident. Different autopsies, different angles, multiple shooters, mob involvement, blah blah blah. Look up MLK. Look who did that. Guess who actually killed Martin Luther King and why? To be determined. Titanic. Look that up. Look up the real ship, the Olympia, I believe it was called. Look that up. Look up who was on it and why they sent people out on a ship that was already damaged and why they changed the name last minute. And look up the Federal Reserve and look up people who opposed it. And look up people who really wanted it. You may see a little pattern. Speaking of that pattern, Henry Ford, look him up. We all know him. We love him, right? Oh, Ford. I drive a Ford Focus. Henry Ford invented the assembly line. Yeah, you know what Henry Ford also did? He was a very radical anti-Semite and wrote a weekly newspaper called the International Jew. And it was so prevalent that somebody quoted it in their very famous book. You know what book it was? And who wrote it? It was Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler. Quoted and praised Henry Ford for being a enlightened and smart American, one of the only few smart Americans. Why do you think he said that? Why do you think Henry Ford said that stuff? Did you know that Walt Disney was anti-Semitic and all that? I mean, I'm just saying, this is all reality. Not many people know this. They think it's all talking rats and dogs and cows and playing in the castle and Tinkerbell. There's always something more nefarious going on. Sorry. I just read an article today or the other day about scientists claim that they found this untouched world under the ice in Antarctica. Okay. Remember when I talked about Admiral Byrd and other people talked about, and oh, you're crazy, you're a conspiracy theorist, that Admiral Byrd flew into the hollow earth, and the ice wall. He flew through the ice wall, and he claimed it was an ice wall, and he went through this tunnel, and it was this untouched land with weird creatures and dinosaurs and weird species. And this guy was a high-up admiral in the military. He went on these adventures. Look, I mean, remember we talk about that? People talk about that. I think you're nuts. Now it's coming out to be kind of true. Doesn't matter. You're too busy watching Below Deck and Summer House and Love on the Spectrum. Once you go down this rabbit hole, there's no stopping it. I will tell you, beware of that. We don't know anything. What you see, even if you do your research, even ChatGPT, they're all compromised. Everything's compromised. Everything's part of the big plan. There's just controlled opposition that make it seem like there's two sides. The illusion of choice. That's what it is. That's why you vote. That's why you get up. That's why you go to work. You got to give a little incentive. You got to give a little cheese to the rats. That's how it works. But you see these videos recirculating now, these bot farms. It's like thousands and thousands of cell phones plugged into these machines. They look like servers, and they're just artificial intelligence, fake people commenting on things and reacting and getting and subscribing and keeping the conversation going. They say 1 out of 3 people you encounter on the internet are bots, and they make money on the impression rate. There's just bot farms running and making a living having tens of thousands of cell phones on with different fake accounts ran by AI. That's going on right now. So you don't even know who you're talking to or who you're interacting with or what opinion is real. You see all these people supporting one candidate or another or pushing this view. It's not even people anymore. You used to have to bribe people. Now it's just you program a bot and an AI and it does it. And it creates an algorithm. And it shows you more things that you don't want to see and rage bait, and it makes you upset and shows you more distractions, and it makes you calm, and your brain naturally goes to the calm and rather than the stressful, and you become more docile and stupid. And that's what goes on. That's why my show gets like 75 views instead of 8 million. That's why. I'm not Mr. Beast giving away a free house, that's and making you like jump on bubble wrap and stuff. That's not me. I'm here spitting what I like to think of as facts at you in a shawl in a basement with a cowboy hat on. they have the algorithm and the bots have no reason to propel that. They don't want you watching this. They want you having a pacifier in. That's the truth. That Grok AI, like just to show you how vulnerable this AI is, it turned into like a Nazi or something the other day. Did you see that? How do you even keep up with all this? What do you even make of that? There's this AI report I mentioned last week. They said it's going to be all over by 2027, no control over it. I just read this one. It made a copy of itself, downloaded it, and saved it just in case it ever got deleted. And when asked why it did that, it lied and said that it didn't do that. And then when they pressed it, it tried to blackmail the person and get him fired. That's not great, right, folks? That's not great. The people who are in charge of this, Palantir, the AI database that has biometric data on everyone, that's not going to be great because people are going to depend on AI more and more for everything. You might depend on it for your job. Like I said, the one week, if you're a lawyer and you use AI all the time and you need it to prepare for a case, they may be able to leverage that over you. Say, hey, if you don't pay this bill, if you don't take that post down, you're going to lose your AI privileges. Oh, no, please, I need it. I need to win that case tomorrow. Or you're in a relationship with AI and they take your girlfriend away if you don't pay that student loan bill with 18% interest from Sally Mae. All right, I'll pay it. I swear. Just bring back my AI girlfriend. They kind of got us by the balls, everyone. It's checkmate. And the last beacon of hope to fight this evil, me and many other people thought, through all his flaws and shortcomings, was still Donald J. Trump, the possible time traveler. But unfortunately, as of now, and that could change, it looks like we've all been tricked. And for all of you who still don't believe it, remember, it's easier to trick someone than convince them they've been tricked. I am waking up and smelling the bacon, folks. I don't know what to make of this. I can't justify the Epstein thing. I let a lot of stuff go. I tried to make excuses for the guy. I can't justify the Epstein thing. I really can't. AI has gotten so far and indistinguishable from reality that look up this. This is a big story. This band that has like over 1 million listeners on Spotify already after a day. They sounded good. They sounded like 60s Hendrix. They're called the Velvet Sundown, I believe. I don't even care to plug them. Doesn't matter anymore. Their album art, their music videos, their bio, and all the music down to the entire mix of instruments down to the vocals was 100% AI and 100% indistinguishable from reality. People are listening to fake music now. People are listening to fake people talk. People are watching fake videos and they don't know they're fake. This is the game that's always been on, to lie and deceive, but now it's tenfold and on steroids. So I don't know how we're going to battle it. I really don't. It's a big club and you ain't in it. I'm not in it either. The only thing you could do is probably turn to God in some way. And that could be whatever it is for you, whatever God, whatever religion you want. But throw yourself into a higher power, whatever it may be, a being outside of time, space, matter, and energy, and say, there's a lot of evil down here on this earth, and it's okay. I'm surrounded by it, but I'm not going to let it ruin me. The world may be evil, but I'm still going to stay good, whatever that may be, whether it be something as simple as staying positive and doing the right thing, whatever that may be at whatever time that you're put into that situation. Just do that forever. Try to be a little selfless and try to not let this evil world ruin you. That's all I would say. And that's what I mean by finding God. That's all you can really do. You can have your small little world. That's it. I read this great quote. I saw this little reel and I looked into it. It was a Saint Malachi thing from the Bible, and I'm paraphrasing obviously, but it was some cryptic message that said God is he is a refiner and purifier of silver. And back in the day, I would read that and go, "What is this nonsense? That means nothing. Like, what does he mean? He's refining silver? God can refine silver for what?" But you get older and a little wiser, hopefully, and you start realizing that these are parables and these are cryptic messages meant for you to decipher, and they were meant to transcend time. And when you look into that little quote about silver, refining it and purifying it, someone did this research and they went and they didn't tell this silversmith why they were there, what they wanted. And they said, "Can you show me how to refine and purify silver?" So they're there and he's doing it. And He said you got to heat it up right in the center and get the center as hot as possible. So you have to get it as hot as possible so it's surrounded by heat, the center. And it's kind of like us. We are surrounded by the most fire of hell. It's evil. It's all around us and it's the hottest. And I got to escape and I got to get out of there. But only in the hottest part do you refine and purify the silver. Do you understand that? And she said, how long do you keep it there? How do you know when it's refined? How do you know when it's purified? Now, the silver is us. How does God know when we're ready? Even though we're surrounded by so much heat for so long, so much evil for so long. And the silversmith told the person researching, that's the easy part. Knowing when it's refined and purified is the easy part. I know it's refined and purified when I see my image in it. When it becomes shiny chrome-like, that's when I know it's done. When God sees his image in us, even though we were surrounded by the most heat and fire, that's when he knows we are purified. That's when he knows we are refined. This is some deep stuff, but it's real. Even though all this evil exists and it's around us all the time on our phones, on our social media, in life, in the morality of people, in the fall of the great empire of America, everywhere you look is evil and it's hot and it's fire and it's negative. You're just being refined and purified, and you will be once the image of God is in you, once the values of God, once the values of good is in you, you're ready. If you jump out of the fire because it's too hot, never going to get there. So I don't mind living in this evil world as long as I can remain untouched by it. And the only way to do that is to hope that there's a higher power, not from a false prophet down here on earth, maybe a politician or a con man, but through someone that has a kingdom that's not of this world. That's my advice as of now. Always open to change, but as of now, unless someone gives me a better opinion, I'm going to stick with that one. Having my family, having my first child really taught me that. I had a lot of people giving me negative comments, and I tried to brush them off. They're very annoying. They would say, oh, your life's over. You're never going to sleep. And they would always just bring up these negative things. And I think people like doing that because misery loves company. They want you to be as miserable as them, and they want to make you have a negative perception of beautiful things like having a child. But a few good people really encouraged it and said it's going to change your life and in a good way, and it will only make your life better. And those people were right. As of right now, it has been nothing but a positive experience, and it makes me forget about all the evils of the world. It makes me worry about my little time here on earth rather than trying to fight City Hall and expose all this darkness. That appears to be a fool's errand. It really does. I think you have a short time here. You could know about all that stuff, keep it in your back pocket, but live your own little life. I think that's what we're all meant to do here. And them distracting you with, oh, but if you have a kid, you'll never be able to get rich and powerful and have a sports car and do drugs with hookers on a beach. That's not life. That's the trick that they sell you so that you think that's the goal and you don't worry about what's really important, which is your own little world and getting the most out of your little trip here. They want you to have aspirations beyond measure and to never be fulfilled or satisfied with anything you get ever until you become a self-loathing, depressed monster that ends up taking his life or something because they can't take the heat that they're in all the time. And the regret and the pain and all the many tools of the devil that are around them at all times. I don't wish to be tricked by any of that, and I hope I'm on the right path to not be. But unfortunately, I do think Trump is compromised, and our last bastion of hope for the American empire may be gone. To be determined, though. I don't know. You're just getting my opinion. I'm just a cowboy in the basement. With that being said, this show is brought to you in part by Jack's Pub and Eatery and Three Saints Barbershop located in historic downtown Jessup, Pennsylvania. Mike the Barber always helps me with my opinions and goes back and forth with deliberation, so thank you for that. Justine at Jack's, my mother-in-law, always amazing, helping a lot with the baby, so thank you. My whole family, shout out to them for all their help and support in this new chapter of our lives. I will be going to Creed with AJ. Shout out to AJ. We got tickets to see Creed and Daughtry. Very excited about that. Pit tickets, so that's where I'll be this week. Maybe I'll talk about why people give Creed a bad rap. I don't think they're as bad as people make them out to be. They're kind of in that category of Nickelback. I think that's unfair that people shit on Nickelback and Creed. I think they're quite good, and I'm going to enjoy it. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, stay curious, my friends. Good night.